Middlebury, Coachman, to pick up a travel trailer. It's Friday, January 24th. It's kind of crazy. January just flew by. But so last night I ended up replacing my map sensor, which is what I was hoping was gonna fix the issue. When I was replacing it, I noticed that the old one, there's like a little rubber seal or gasket. It was torn, and that could definitely be my fault. If you remember, if you watched some of the early on videos, I stopped and had to clean it. I stopped in like Gary, Indiana, had to clean it out on my way to pick up a trailer. So I may have torn it, putting it back in then, or I hope that is the case, or that it just tore on its own, just got old. The other thing is, I did pull it to see if I needed to clean it once I started having the issue. So if I tore it at that point, putting it back in then or pulling it out, then it probably isn't going to fix my issue, because the issue was already there. But I probably won't know, because it's so like intermittent that it could be 1,000 miles before I have this issue again, because I went basically, well, I think I picked up the first trailer this week, and when I let the truck idle, it started doing it. But then I shut it off when I got fuel, and it reset or did whatever it did, and I didn't have the issue for the rest of Wednesday. And then yesterday, I didn't have an issue until, so I did the delivery, stopped off at some family to visit, and then on the way home, it did it. And I did pull over at like an Oasis to try to reset it, shut it off. Got out, tried to knock off some ice on my front camera, got back in, it did not reset that time. So my whole drive home yesterday, it was boosting like 15 to 20 psi just cruising on the highway. So I took it easy, got home, had to do some stuff at home, and then I went out and I swapped out the map sensor, and I checked the air filter. The air filter does look good. It didn't get like sucked in or anything where it collapsed. So I don't think it's an air filter issue. And then, I did fix the map sensor. So now it's just a matter of time. Time will tell, did it get fixed or not. I'm going to just try to run my truck normally. I'm going to let it idle while I hook up the trailer. I'm going to let it idle while I fuel. And we'll kind of see, I probably won't make a determination on whether I think it's fixed until I run a couple loads. I'm hopeful that damaged map sensor seal was what was maybe causing like a boost leak. And I'm in good shape now. That would be really nice, because it only cost me $100 for the sensor. I did the work myself. Took me, 15 minutes start to finish. So we'll see what happens, but I'm hopeful that fixed it, especially after seeing, the little seal that was damaged. The map sensor itself really wasn't dirty at all, so I don't think that it was just a dirty map sensor. So far, I've driven about 75 miles, no issues, but again, it's so infrequent that, it could be 500, could be 800,000 miles in between, and I really couldn't pinpoint what set it off. I will say last night I let my truck warm up for a while. Like, I auto started it from the house before I left to head home, visiting some family, and it ran for 10 minutes or whatever. Maybe it seems to be the idling that was causing it. So like I said, hopefully it fixed. We'll find out, time will tell. If it didn't fix, then that's something I'll have to, maybe I'll order a mass airflow sensor, because that pretty much would eliminate sensors, and at that point, based off what I've done research-wise and what my tuner has told me, then at that point it kind of is looking likely it's something with the turbo. But like I said, we're gonna see what happens. Don't want to jump to conclusions at this point. Gonna assume that it got fixed until I feel something different. On another note, I reached out to my dispatcher yesterday. I am gonna run a load this weekend. I wasn't going to, but having the 1 week off, and then last week just being like 3 shorter loads, and then this week I so far only have 3 loads. I think it just makes sense to run a 4th load, just to get back over that gross 2,000, try to make up some money where I wasn't making money. I think I mentioned before, like right now, this time of the year with my business, we're not making any money. I'm just dishing out labor because we're taking lights down, and people have already paid, so I just write the check for labor, gas, insurance, all that stuff without any real money coming in. So so that's kind of my reasoning for thinking that it's a good time to just put in another load. And I think what I'm going to do, because I got to call him. He said to call him after 8. It's now after 8, so I'll give him a call soon. I think I'm going to ask for a Monday load as well. That way I don't have to bug him on like Sunday for Monday's load. So I'll see if I can't lock in 2 loads, get me started, get me through the weekend, get me started for the following week. And if I can run 4 loads again next week, I'm going to do that. I think just, especially now with kind of getting my routine down, knowing what time I got to leave to hopefully beat traffic. The way it's been working out is like I'll leave, I'll wake up, go to the gym, roll out of my town, before like 8 a.m. and I'm usually back home around 5 p.m. So, unless I run like one of my longer ones where, it's going to pay $700 or $800, then I'm probably not home till like 6 or 7. But then, I can just leave earlier. Like Wednesday, I ran a longer load. I think I left around like 4:30, 4:45, and I was home by like 6. So, I'm still kind of, because before when I had like a longer load, I would just pick it up the day before, then just split the load in half. I'm not doing that anymore because of the neighbor situation. So now I'm just kind of figuring out like, okay, if I got a longer load, let's leave, 4, 5 a.m., skip the gym that day. That way I'm still home at a decent time. That's kind of, and now that I'm doing that, where I'm kind of running everything in one day, it's making it easier to do, 4 days out of the week. Whereas before, when I was kind of splitting the longer loads, I wasn't working any more hours, but it was kind of given the misconception that I was working more than I was, with my family and stuff. They were like, well, you're gone all the time, because I would a lot of times leave at night, go to Indiana, pick up a trailer, come home. I wasn't home at night with them. Next day I would leave out at night again to go deliver. So a lot of nights I wasn't home, but sometimes that I do that just because of the babysitter situation. It's like either I don't work or I work at night, and that's my own personal, just having to have a babysitter, things like that. And if I don't have a babysitter, then I'll work when my wife works or isn't working. But yeah, it kind of, even though I'm working the same amount of hours, it does feel like less. And then my family is less interrupted, I guess, when I work during the day, and I could run 4 loads in 4 days versus 4 loads splitting up 2 days, and I end up on the road 6 days out of the week. Like I said, still the same amount of hours, but it just kind of gives that, from an outsider looking at it, it looks like you're working less because you're only working 4 days out of the week, and you're working more normal hours during the day. And I will say it is easier to run during the daylight. You know, when you're at nighttime running, at least for me, it's easier to feel more tired. Especially because, like, if I run a night load, I probably was up all day anyways, because I have my, you know, if I'm running a night load, it's probably because I was at home with my kid, you know, and I spent all day with her, and then I just rolled out at night. And a lot of times I would try to take a nap if I knew I was going to leave at nighttime, but, you know, it's hard for me anyways to nap. So it was more of like, okay, I laid down, maybe I slept for 10-15 minutes, something woke me up, and that's it, I'm awake, you know. Whereas, you know, when I run, I leave at 7, 8, 6, whatever time in the morning, and I'm home by 5, you know, I'm tired, don't get me wrong. Like, driving does wear me out mentally. So, like, especially when I leave really early, like Wednesday when I left at like 4:30, 4:45, by the time I got home, you know, I ran that probably 700 miles that day. I was beat. Like, I was ready for bed when I got home at like 6:30, whatever it was. But I couldn't imagine doing that like in the middle of the night. That I probably would have had to pull over and like get a little bit of rest. So definitely for me anyways, running during the day is easier, feels more productive, gives a better personal life. And yeah, my goal is going to be like 4 loads a week when I can. I still want to try to do, you know, 5 loads one week just to see what kind of money I can make. I just don't know when that's going to be. But I want to do, you know, a full 5, like that way you can kind of see like, hey, if you work Monday through Friday, you run 5 short loads, you're home every night, you're home on the weekend, this is how much money, you know, you could make. I know I can do the math. You know, let's say you take the $700 load I did on Wednesday, and you do it Monday through Friday. You know, you're realistically at that point, you're probably putting in 45 to 50 hours. So keep that in mind. You are working more than 40 because that's a little bit longer day. And if you hit weather or traffic, you know, you could push over 50 for the week if you're running that load every day. But that's $3,500, you know, in a 5-day period. Technically, you know, with your logs, you should be able to do 6 load that week and then hit your reset on Sunday. You know, and then you're talking 4,200, working 60, 65 hours if you wanted to do that. You know, if you had a holiday coming up or something, you want to save up a little extra money, you know, you could run that load 6 days a week and have, you know, $4,200. You could also do, I think there's a load up to La Crosse that pays like $800. You know, so then you're looking at $4,800 for the week. A little bit more hours because it's a little further distance, but you know, there's some real money in it. You're gonna work hard for it, but yeah, there's some real money in it. And oh, it looks like I got a load, so I don't have to call him. He sent it to me. It looks like I'll be going to Sheboygan North, which is the one I go to a lot. So that's good. That's kind of when I was going to call him, if he asked what I wanted, that was going to be what I was going to ask for. You know, if he asked, I was going to say Sheboygan North or like Elkhorn or something like that. Something not too far, just to get that 4th load in. So that Sheboygan North, I think, pays $570. So yeah, that'll put me, I don't know, between $2,300 and $2,400 for the week. Obviously, I'll do a video on that. But 4 loads, somewhere between, call it $2,350 for the week. I'm happy with that. But what was I getting at? I don't remember where I was. Got distracted, unfortunately. For a good reason, though. I got my load, which is good. Oh, yeah, so there's definitely, like, you know, I can do the math and know what I can make if I worked 5-6 days, whatever, running longer loads. But I also want to do good just to kind of see like how much is it. Like I've never driven for 60 hours in a week doing that kind of work, so I want to know, like, you know, A, I want to verify that the logs will allow it, and B, like, I just want to know, you know, what it feels like to deliver 5 loads, 6 loads, whatever it is, and kind of get a feel for that, see if it's sustainable. But the one kicker there is you probably, unless like the industry was during COVID where it's like they can't produce these fast enough because they're selling so much. I don't know that you could have 6 loads in 1 week going to that dealership paying that amount of money. I don't know how many per week go to each dealership. I'm sure they get at least 6 a week, but there's going to be more drivers that want those dealerships, so you're kind of like, very rarely do I go to the same dealership in a week. So like this week I did 4 loads. They're going to be 4 different dealerships. During the shutdown for the holiday, I think I did go to like Sheboygan North maybe 3 times in a week. From what I've seen, that's the biggest dealership for the company that we deliver for. So it kind of makes sense that they would probably get the biggest number of loads, the largest number of loads. You know, because that almost kind of seems like their flagship store, unless there's one that I haven't been to that is, you know, larger. As far as I can see, that's the one. That's the big one. There's a couple other decent sized ones, like, you know, Elkhorn's decent sized. Slinger is a decent sized one. But I've been, you know, like up in La Crosse, that one's pretty small. Trying to think. I think Fox Valley is pretty small. So, yeah, it would probably be hard to get, like, even when I do my 5 load week, or if I end up doing a 6 load week, the chances that I'll be going to the same dealership 5 or 6 times in a row, not likely. And on the flip side of that, like, yeah, you could run 5 or 6 loads, but if you run 5 or 6 of the shortest loads, you're not making, you know, you're not going to work as much, because I can do that delivery, deadhead pick up and deliver at home, probably within 8 hours, no problem. But the shortest load that we do only pays, you know, $420. So, you know, working 5 days, you're only going to make $2,100. So it's like, okay, I just worked 5 days, I made less than, you know, working 4 days doing longer loads, or 3 days doing the longer loads. So that's always something to keep in mind. But also, you know, you have to kind of spread it out. All the drivers need to get loads. They all need to have, some need to have the shorter, some need to have the longer. There's gonna be, I don't want to call it favoritism, but, you know, if a guy's been with you for 10 years, he should have, you know, his pick of loads that he wants first, or like if he prefers a certain dealership, you got to have some kind of loyalty or favoritism there. So, like I said, it's hard to kind of, from what I've seen in this industry, and it probably doesn't matter what transport company you work for, it's kind of hard to lock in. It's not a salary, you know. You're not going to get that same amount of money every single week. You're going to have your slow weeks, you're going to have your busy weeks, you're going to have your short loads, you're going to have your long loads. And like I said, it doesn't matter what RV transport company you work for. You know, if you're working for a larger company like, say, Indiana Transport, they might be sending you to California. I mean, not sending you, they could call you and ask you to go to a certain area, but you might get on the load board and see something going to California that pays, say, $3,500 one week, and then the next week maybe there's no real long loads and you're stuck running a bunch of short loads, and maybe you're not going to make the $3,500. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're getting into this line of work. It is inconsistent, and I don't really see it becoming really consistent, you know, unless the industry gets super, super busy again, where there's so many loads that you just pick what you want and you go all the time. big deal because I am a small business owner and I'm used to the inconsistencies. So, with my business, I might make 40 grand one month. The next month I might make 8 grand. It just depends on how busy I am, what time of the year it is. And even like worst case scenario this month, I might only make $1,000 because we're not doing any work. But like I said, come July, it might be 40 grand. So I'm used to the inconsistency. But if you're someone that's worked only like a salary job or an hourly job, where you can kind of pinpoint how much money you're going to make every week, it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for you. But I can say like the money is there. There's a lot of comments that say that there's no money in it. I can tell you, if you're on like a $75,000 salary, after taxes, you're probably only bringing home a little over $1,100 a week. And a lot of times, if you're on a salary, they're going to expect that you work more than 40 hours a week. And I'm bringing up that example because my last salaried position I had was $75,000. Now I made commission and bonus, but my reliable pay was $75,000, and I want to say it was like $1,140, $1,170, somewhere in there a week after taxes. It was like $1,400 something before taxes. I could rely on that $1,100 and something or whatever it was a week, and then any kind of commission or anything I got was, added. But there's some weeks that my commission was nothing, and then there was some weeks that I got $400, $500, $600, $700. I think I even had like a $1,100 or $1,200 commission week. But it was very you couldn't rely on the commission because you had to wait. You had to make the sale, and then you had to wait for the customer to pay, and then for it to hit your pay. So like if I made a sale, it could be 60, 90 days before I saw the commission on that. I would say like my average was probably closer to $100 commission. If I broke it down per week, how much I made in commission, was probably around $100. But to go back to my example of like $75,000 a year salary coming out to, if you want to look at it before taxes, because you obviously have to pay your taxes working in RV transport, you're talking $1,400 something. So this week I'll gross over $2,000. Even after I pay, say, $450 in fuel, I'm still above where I was at $75,000 salary. And instead of working 5 days, I'm only working 4. And I was averaging 35, 40 hours of work a week, plus about 12 hours of travel a week, sometimes more depending on traffic. So when I look at actual hours spent away from home, A, it was 5 days, and B, it was probably around that 50 hour with travel a week that I was gone versus 40 in 4 days. So and if I were to say, hey, I'm gonna do 5 loads a week, 50 hours or so a week, because that's what I was working before, was 5 days, 50 hours with travel. I could say I'm gonna gross between probably $2,500, $3,000 a week. So basically double what I was grossing on a $75,000 salary. So just to break that down for you, like obviously you take into account fuel, you take into account maintenance on the truck, you take into account depreciation on the truck. That's all going to bring down your total in your pocket, but you're also getting a lot of tax write-offs, things like that. So hopefully that helps. I know I went on a bit of a rant there, but hopefully it kind of helps break down for anybody that's like on edge. Should I leave my $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 salary to to go do this line of work, or my $15 to $20 an hour job. Hopefully that kind of breaks it down for you. Kind of see what money you can make. And it's not to say like there's a certain number. Like if you make $100,000 a year, don't get out of that and don't get into RV transport, because there's a lot of variables that go into it. Do you want, what's important to you? If you have a steady job that pays you $100,000 a week or a year, and you can rely on that money and it pays your bills, then maybe that's what you should keep doing. And it's comfortable, it's predictable, but also, like, for me, I found out that I can't work for somebody else anymore. I can, like, push comes to shove, but I don't enjoy working for somebody else. I've been my own boss for 6 years, and it's really hard to go back to someone telling you when you're working, how much you're making. And I would say RV transport kind of gives you that middle ground, because technically you are working for another company, but you're a 1099 contractor, so you are, your own boss. You can't get fired, but you can be told you no longer can run loads for us, but you're not getting fired, because you can't fire a contractor. So it is basically like you own your own business. You technically have to answer to somebody because somebody is paying you. But it's very much like owning your own business, where with like my own business that I have, I don't have to answer to anybody except for the customer. I always tell people my boss is the customer. If they're not happy, I'm not making money. But if I want to go on vacation in July, I don't have to ask anybody, can I go on vacation in July? It's very similar in RV transport, especially when you're working for like a larger company that only requires 1 or 2 loads a month. You could take 3 weeks off and run 1 load, and they're not going to de-lease you. My situation's a little bit different. I got to run 12 loads a month to stay leased on. But if I were to call my dispatcher and say, hey, I want to take a 10-day vacation, I'm fairly confident that he's going to be like, yeah, go for it. Have a good time. Call me when you get back. You want to run some loads. So I like the RV transport because it is like like you're owning your own business. You pretty much are your own boss. You're not really answering to anybody. Versus, working for a company where they're telling you when you can come, when you leave, what your hours are, what days you got to work, how much you're going to make. And I would say that was like one of my biggest downfalls of working. Anytime I worked for a company where I was on a W-2, for example, when I was in manufacturing, I worked so hard. I averaged 67 or 68 hours a week. I was technically working 7 days a week because I worked my normal Monday through Friday. I would work every Saturday, half day. I would take my computer home with me at night, every single night, whether it was night or weekends. On the weekends when we weren't staffed, I was making adjustments to furnaces that were running through my laptop. There was, and you had a very small window of like overrun time. It was usually 15 minutes, and it was very unpredictable how it was going to heat up, and it was hard to say like, okay, if I put this load, I start it now at 2 p.m. I got to turn up the temperature, shut it off, or whatever, because it depended on how much weight was in there, how cold it was outside, how cold it was inside. So there was many times that I was waking up at 2, 3 in the morning, setting my alarm, pulling up my laptop, and making an adjustment, or getting the phone call that something went wrong and I got to come in on a Saturday at midnight or whatever, from the security guard that we had. A lot of times on Sundays, almost every Sunday, I was going in for at least a little bit, an hour, 2 hours to flip around some stuff, put some new parts in. I mean, I was working really, really hard, making the company a lot of money. And, you know, you have bosses that appreciate that. Like, your immediate bosses see it, they appreciate it. You know, I remember at one point my review came up and they were so happy. My two immediate supervisors and managers were so happy with me. They wrote my review, had it really, really good. They went to the plant manager asking for, I want to say it was like a $3 an hour raise, which was significant. And you know, they had a list of why I deserved it, all this extra stuff I was doing above and beyond, and the plant manager said, we don't give those kind of raises, give them 50 cents. You know, and that's what I got, was 50 cents. And it's like that's the kind of stuff that that's why I don't like working for companies and for other people, because there's always going to be people that appreciate you, and then there's always going to be people that either don't care, don't appreciate, or they're just set in their ways, like this guy was, where he said, we don't give those kind of raises, this is what he's getting. And, you know, at least when you're working for yourself, you know, if I want to make extra money this year, then I know that I just got to work harder and I can make extra money. Whether that be putting in more time, more hours, more work, whatever it is, focusing on higher paying loads, you know, with RV transport, whatever the case might be, but you're more in control of how much money you're making. And for me, that works out. For some people, it probably wouldn't. You know, it does take some self-discipline. It's easy to sit at home and do nothing, and do the bare minimum and make the bare minimum. So, again, long rant, but that's kind of, I just wanted to put it out there so that, you know, I think there's a lot of people that are on the edge of whether or not they're going to get into RV transport, and I'm hoping these videos at least help out with that. Alright, I got this Coachman Catalina 261. Had to do a little bit of zip tie-in over here for the wiring. It's usually a lot cleaner than that. I don't know why they had it like electrical taped, but it wasn't holding, so I put a couple zip ties so the wires don't drag. But not the cleanest work I've seen. It's 6,174 pounds, 30 foot 5 inches overall. Everything looks good. Tires were good, lug nuts were good. There's a big slide on that thing. The sewage cap on, license plates on. All the doors are nice and secure. It looks like an outdoor kitchen. I didn't open this up. Got the door locked. It's a nice outdoor JBL speaker system. I like these glass doors that they put on these units. I locked it all up. Storage in the front. Good to go. It's cold out today, cold and snowy. Let me get the truck here. Had a little bit of an issue finding the trailer. If you watched any of my videos, I usually do a little rant, but I stopped at the security desk to get the paperwork, told them what unit I was looking for, and the guy's newer. He's been just handing me the paperwork, not telling me where it's at. So I was like, well, you know what lot it's in. And I think he was getting a little flustered because there was like 2 people in line behind me waiting to pull up. So the lady was like, you know, it's in the 103 lot, and I was looking at the paperwork. It says 203 yard. So I asked her, I was like, 203? She kind of got flustered. She's like, no. So I just pulled away. They were right. It was in the 103. I don't know why the paperwork says 203 lot, but I did actually go over to the 203 to look. It wasn't there, so I went over to the 103 building lot, and it was there. So just a little mix up there, but found it. This unit is headed up to Madison, Wisconsin. It's a nice sunny day out today. Everything's clear, so it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of wind or anything, so it should be a pretty uneventful drive to Madison. I think it's about 4 hours, 20 minutes from Middlebury here. We'll be headed that way. Get this thing out of here. I'll show you a little bit of the lot. I might need 4-wheel drive to yank this thing out. We'll see. Doesn't look like it. I wish I would have got my truck washed though, because it's all salty. My mirrors are salty. It's kind of hard to see actually. I'm gonna have to probably pull over and wash these mirrors off if I can. Yeah, this is one of the lots. See if I can get the focus in for you. So the way they do it is they have like a yard at each building. So this is the 103 building, and this is the yard for the 103 building where you find the camper. I knew I was looking for something a little bit bigger, so the first yard I went to, they only had a few Coachman Catalinas in there, so I just checked them real quick. They weren't there, and then I saw a lot like behind the 203 building. I drove over there, but they were all like single axle small trailers, so I knew that's not what I was looking for. So I came over here, and I did find it. You got to be real careful when you're driving around, especially like I noticed at this building for sure, the forklift traffic back here, and they get like delivery drivers and stuff like that, so you just got to kind of watch out when you're coming through here. Make sure that a fork truck doesn't back out of one of these doors, especially like right here. It's kind of a blind corner. There's a door here, so you always just want to watch out for that kind of stuff. All right, all unhooked. The guy actually did do an inspection here. This is the first time at this dealership while they're actually open, and there is actually a little bit of a something on that plastic there, like a wrinkle, but it's really thin. Just like, I don't even know what that is material wise, but that's the only thing he found. Everything else looks good. This side, I mean, it's a little bit like, I think it's just the trim is a little wrinkled because it's such thin material. But yeah, he did mark it, or like take a picture of it, but then he signed off on my sheet that it was good. So I mean, I think that means I am good because he signed off on it. I'm gonna go ahead and put that up. But yeah, this is the first time I've been at this dealership while they're open. I dropped off once during the holidays when they're closed, so I wasn't sure what to expect, but you know, at least I know now coming up here to Madison, they do actually, sorry, lost the video there. I guess coming up to Madison here, they will actually do a real inspection, where a lot of the dealerships that I deliver to, they don't actually come out here and inspect anything. So good to know for the future. I get out of here before I get in this guy's way. He's moving a camper with a tractor. But yeah, on our way home. Should be home by 5:30 p.m., which puts me, I left my area a little bit before 8, so about 9.5 hours or so. Not too bad. $570 this load pays. And like I said, I'm gonna do one to Sheboygan this weekend. I don't know if I'm gonna do Saturday or Sunday yet though, but I'll do a video once I hit that.